Okay. So welcome everybody. This is the Books and Booze, not booze, but scary booze for Halloween, panel for new authors. And we have Jaci Wheeler.
Hello.
And Susan Burdorf.
Hello.
Kelly Martin.
Hello.
And last but not least, Jenny Bullington as our panelists. We also have a sign language interpreter, so we might be a little, just be measured in your responses. I know we can all go pretty fast, but I want to make sure that our interpreter has time to sign for Jaci. So.
Thank you guys, sorry.
Oh, no, don't be sorry ever. It's great.
I think this is awesome. I've never been on a panel that did that before. It's cool.
Well, this is thanks to Meg, because this was not going to happen. I don't normally tell people because I do have voice, I speak okay. But when we're in this regular signing, it's one-on-one in your face, it's fine. I can read lips. But the minute you have the Zooms going all over the place, I didn't think about it till last minute. I texted Meg and was like, maybe I should back out. I don't know that I'm going to follow it. 2 seconds later, she's like, girl, I got your interpreter. It's fine.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. It helps that our interpreter is family to me. She's my husband's first cousin, so we're pretty close. All right. So we get 30 minutes for free, and I want to make sure we cover a lot of ground and make this really beneficial for everybody. So my first question is going to go to Susan. What is the best resource for authors to find the latest news in the industry?
Okay, so there are a couple of places that you can go. I'm going to make this quick and easy. One of them is called Publishers Weekly, and you can subscribe to them. It's free, and they will update on what agents have just bought what books, what industry news is going on, such as the publishing houses that are accepting new submissions or are closed to submissions or might be closing their doors or might be starting a new imprint, which is what we hope the news will be good soon. But so that's a great one, Publishers Weekly. Another one is called Query Tracker. So it's like your query, and they will track new agents or even older ones with what they're looking for and what agency they're at. So those are two great resources, Publishers Weekly and Query Tracker News, both free. Then, of course, you have your publications like Writer's Digest or Right Now, I think is one of them. There's a lot of blogs. If you go online and you keyword search whatever it is you're looking for, you'll see umpteen thousand different blogs and articles on what you need, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of options out there. Google is your best friend always, or Bing or whatever server you use, but definitely don't be afraid to use the computer to find the information you need. And then definitely reach out to authors, to the ones that you are interested in following in the same footsteps. And they always have really good resources. Big thing is to watch out for the scammers. There's a lot out there. They look legit. A vanity press might come off as somebody who's looking for submissions. And by the time you get into it, you've spent thousands of dollars to do what you could have done for free. Your authors are your best resources. Another option that people don't think about is meetup.com. It's a local organization for your area, and there might be a writers group listed on there. Get on there and look for a writing group that might appeal to your genre, whatever you're working for. So that's some of my suggestions.
Okay, great. Thank you. There's a lot there. We may have you put a post later with some of those listed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So Kelly, how important are comps in your queries and your pitches, and maybe give us what a comp is?
A comp is a book or a TV show or a movie or something that goes along with what your book is about. It's kind of a quick screenshot of what your book is pitched as. Like it could be Scream plus, I don't know, Little House on the Prairie, something like that. So it's a very quick thing to tell an agent or a publisher what the feel of your book is, what the tone of your book is, what some specific categories your book can go in. So I think they're very important. I know when you do PitMad on Twitter, which is a pitch contest where agents can come and request you send their pages. They have a lot of comps in the title of, or the beginning part of your pitch. And that's kind of, it's very much an attention grabber. It's very much a, okay, if I like Scream, if I like Little House on the Prairie, then I should maybe like a book that has them connected like that.
Good. So Jaci, I know that you are a hybrid author. You have done traditional publishing and you've done some indie publishing. What are the pros and cons of traditional publishing versus indie for you?
Okay, so I started indie, went traditional for 5 years, and then now I'm jumping back into indie. I'm going to say just the pros and cons of both. So for me, the pros of indie is you have full control. I'm OCD. I like control. I like to pick my own covers. I like to pick my own editors. I like to do everything myself. If you're somebody who does not like that type of stuff, if you want to just write and be done with it, traditional is great because they have all the say. They pick your editor. They pick your covers. They pick your PR. They do all of that. But at the same time, you really, if you don't like your cover, it's like, too bad. That's what we're picking. And so you have something that you might not necessarily love. That's not me. I did love my covers, by the way. But just I know authors who weren't happy with, stuff that they got, and that's what you're stuck with. And they also take a much higher percentage of your book. So it depends on what your contract is. It depends on the traditional publisher that you're with. But usually it's 60 to 70% they take. And you still have to pay for a lot of your marketing. Depending on, again, the publisher, they're all a little bit different. Sometimes you have to pay for your own travel. Sometimes you have to pay for your, books, anything that you might be using. Other ones will pay for it for you. It just depends on your contract. But for me, 60%, 70%, it's a lot of your paycheck. And yes, they're paying for the startup costs. So if you don't have money to start up, traditional might be a good way to go because you don't pay for your editor, you don't pay for your cover designer, you don't pay for your formatting. Now with indie, yes, you do pay for all of those things, but you can also pick who you go with. You can find deals, you can do, if you find somebody that you don't like, you can go with somebody else the next time. When you're with a traditional publisher, usually the person you have for the first one is going to be for all the rest of your books. So if you maybe have a conflict with an editor or something, it doesn't matter. They are your editor. And for every book you produce with them, they're going to be who you have. So startup costs paid for, great, go traditional. If you don't mind having no say at all really over your books, great, go traditional. If you're kind of a control freak like me, it might be better to do indie. You make a little bit more money after startup costs and you have complete say over it.
Yeah,
That's a lot to think about.
You're competing a lot when you're doing traditional as well with other authors. So you may not get in to a traditional publisher for a couple of years.
Yeah, and so if you are doing, and it depends again what kind of publisher you're with, but you can write a book, sign you, it won't go out for sometimes like 2 or 3 years, even though you wrote it, years ago, and they'll give you usually like a stipend of how much you get for advertising. And it's based on what they think your book is going to project and do. So if you have a small advertising budget and you're going up against someone like maybe Sarah J. Maas or something like that, and they have a huge advertising budget, chances are you're going to get kind of lost in that versus when you're indie, and you can still, when you're traditionally published, you can still bring in your own budget if you want to. You can still, and I still hire my own PR people and stuff. But it's, again, then you're putting money out just like you would if you were indie, and you're giving away a big chunk of it to somebody else for still doing the work.
Okay, so some things to consider with traditional. and with indie. I'm an indie published author myself because I'm like Jackie, I'm a control freak. So.
I really am. It's great when you first start out, though. I will say when you first start out and you have no clue who your editors are, no clue who your cover designers are, and it's so overwhelming just to be like, oh, I just sign a paper and I do nothing, and you get to do all of that. That's great. And then when you get into the field a little bit, you're like, oh wait, but I would like to go over here, and it doesn't matter.
All right, so Jenny, who should I have on my publishing team? Like, what are the key players?
Oh boy. For me personally, I found an editor, a cover designer, and an interior formatter that I use religiously, like every single time I release a book. It's these people that I use. And I chose them because, one, I researched them. I looked at what kind of product they were doing, how quickly they responded. Were their prices competitive with other people's? Because those are services as an indie that I pay for. And then I looked at their finished products and seeing if what they came out with was something that I felt like would match the look and the feel that I wanted. For me, I'm not a very big tech person. I love the piece of writing, but not so much having to do all the tech stuff, like what dimensions does my cover need to be, and did I format this correctly so Amazon won't kick it back and say they can't accept it. So that's why I hire it out, and I've built a very core team that I will not release anything unless they are part of that process. And then I would also add that having a really solid team of beta readers. I want people to read through things that it makes sense in my head and what I intended with, like a paragraph or a scene, but it's good to get feedback from others who read your book and can tell you like, hey, that part of the plot really kind of sucks. and so then what to do to go back and fix that. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people who start out as new authors, they get into it because they just love writing, and that's where it starts. But then when you decide to publish and to publish as an indie, like you have a kind of a steep learning curve, I think, to find out, well, like who does these things, like who does cover design and who does editing, and what is this smash words, like what do I do it, do I not? And so research is going to be really important, and you can join like cover designers and editors and interior formatters. A lot of times you can join their private Facebook groups from their page, and they'll show pictures of their products. And definitely don't feel bad to ask questions like, what's your turnaround time, and and compare prices. I think that's important because I do think that there are some people out there that will do covers or post like a pre-made sale, and you'll buy it and then you'll never get it. So we've had that happen actually to a friend and I. When we were co-writing, we bought a cover and we just never got it. So it's important to make sure you're looking at what their reviews are too, because obviously as a writer, you can't quit your day job. So, it's something that you have to budget for sure. But I would say that those four pieces, the interior formatter, cover designer, editor, and beta readers are core to my team.
Okay, so, Jenny brought up beta readers. Kelly, how many people need to read your book before you send it to the editor or before you call it done?
I send it to 2 people. That's mainly all I do. But one of my editors is actually a beta reader, so she'll read it through first as a reader, and then she'll go back and read it as a editor. And then I have another lady that reads through it to make sure that, especially if it's a sequel, because she's read all my books, to make sure that I've not totally messed something up. Or she'll be like, hey, this guy's name was this in the other book. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So I have 2. I think you can have too many, because if you have too many people, everybody has an opinion. So if you have, I don't even know what a big number would be. For me, a big number would be like 5, but some people like that. I like 5. But it depends on how many you're comfortable with. But I think if you have too many people, then your ideas kind of get a little jumbled and you don't really know who to listen to. I think of it as the TV show Say Yes to the Dress. And if you have the people with the big parties that come, they rarely pick a dress because they have so many opinions. They don't know which one to believe or which one to listen to. But the people that come with small parties, they usually pick out a dress. So I think about that with beta readers. Find somebody you trust that will tell you the truth, not just somebody that will tell you what you want to hear, but will tell it in a nice, positive way so you won't want to quit. Somebody that's not trying to take away your voice in your own, book, but somebody that will help you get the flow of your book, and especially sequels and little details and things you might have missed in there.
Right. And something else Jenny touched on, and I'm kind of going off script from the questions I had planned, was that she uses the same team for every book. And I think where she was going with that was so that the look of the cover and the feel of the interior design and the voice that comes through from her editor establishes a brand for her. So how important, and let's go to Jaci for this one. How important is that brand?
I mean, it's everything. If you think about, let's say you're a t-shirt company and you have a logo and that's your brand, when people see your logo, they know it's you, whether they know what the name of the company is or not. And I feel like a lot of people as authors don't think you have a logo. It's just my name. And if you don't know my name, they don't know who I am. But if you come up with a brand right away and they know this is the style of book you're going to write, a lot of the time they won't even need to read your blurb because they know, something that Jenny put out. Okay, I'm always going to get it. If it's in my inbox and it says she put a book out, I'm going to go to Amazon and click it, whether I know what the book's about. And I do that. Like, I will say I have my own certain favorite authors that I never read their blurbs. I don't want to know what they're writing. The minute I see they have a new release, I buy it because I can guarantee it's not going to be something that offends me. It's not going to be something that I'm going to hate because they all write to a certain thing. And I think as a new author, that's super important because a lot of times you're just so excited to write and you don't really know where you fit yet, that you write all kinds of different things and you want to try out new things. And I'm going to really, really try and steer you away from that because yes, it's fun, but do that before you publish. So come up with a bunch of different ideas, come up with different brands, different styles, and then when you're ready to publish, stick to one if you can. Now, if it doesn't work, get rid of it and start over, but don't do that too many times because you're going to have readers who follow you. And if you really want to change your brand, this might not be a popular opinion, get a pen name and then have 2 different, and it's difficult because you have to have 2 different websites. But I have a pen name because I started out YA, and with YA, you really have to stick with YA. And then I decided later on that I kind of wrote myself out of that genre and I didn't publish any of it because I wanted to wait and publish under a pen name. So I have my adult brand and then I have my YA brand, but it's a lot of work because you have to keep up 2 separate brands and make sure you don't get confused of which is which. And you have different websites, you have different email addresses. And so stick with your brand because it really will be your career and it's what people are going to know you as.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I was going to circle back on some things that Jenny talked about that kind of tied into some things that Susan talked about. And we talked about, Jenny bought a cover that they never got. And Susan was warning us to watch out for scammers. So one of my biggest tips for people is to network. Get out there and meet people in these different roles and talk to authors that have made mistakes or have had to correct their brand, because those are going to teach you about the pitfalls and the mistakes. And they also give you a professional reference, hey, don't buy from that cover designer, or I really enjoy working with this editor. Here's my best recommendation for a proofreader, and it helps if you're networking within your genre. So that Bridget's great with YA, right, as an editor, or she can do interior format like a beast, right? So you want to know who those people are, and you want to share those professional references, and so your network matters, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna like piggyback off of that just real quick. And that is, careful what genre you get stuck in. I started off and somehow I went to a signing that was all romance. It was because it was for autism, which is what my kids are. So that's why I was asked. But I got stuck in this romance little clique genre where all of my friends were romance authors. All of the signings I was being invited to a romance. I'm not a romance author. So be very careful that you don't get stuck in the wrong, because yeah, all of the cover designers I knew were romance. All of the editors I knew were romance, and it is different.
Yeah, and trust is super important in this business too. And that's why it's so important that you network. And Jenny touched on having that same team. She trusts them to do what she needs them to do. And that's very important. And that's why you need to make sure that you network, because everybody has a bad day or a bad week. We all know that. And maybe you touch on a designer one time and it's really awful, and you go back to them and you say, hey, you know, it's not working. We're going to have to go somewhere else. And maybe letting them know that is helpful and important too. So don't forget that we all started wherever you are, and that we can help. And any of the authors that are in this business are generous with their time, and they will help you. Just ask the question.
Yeah. So when we talk about all these wonderful things, networking and, cover design and brand and, all the things that we've touched on, we've all made mistakes. So I want everybody on the panel to give us just real quick, real brief, what was your biggest mistake?
My biggest mistake, I started out in this business in 2010 through a writing group that I was involved in. And the instructor, or the leader of the group, started a conference called UtopiaCon. And I did not reach out to anybody. I waited 3 years to talk to these people that I love their writing, but I was too terrified to do that. Don't wait. That's my best advice.
All right, Jackie.
I was dreading this. So without saying any names, my biggest mistake was, like Susan said earlier, trusting the wrong people. So, and this wasn't when I was like a seasoned brand new author either. So you can be an author for 5 years and trust somebody who isn't trustworthy. You don't know it, looked up the references, everything was great. And it ruined one of my books. And it was just a hot mess. The cover was wrong. They uploaded the wrong book to Amazon. It was a nightmare, and it was just because it wasn't a good fit, and they got rushed, and I paid a ton of money, the most money I've ever paid for a book, and it was a nightmare. It took me 5 months to get it back on track. So be careful who you trust, and I wouldn't trust anyone that you have not personally talked to somebody that they've worked with, no matter how good their references are, no matter if they're working with top bestsellers or not. Be careful.
Good advice.
Okay, Kelly.
My biggest mistake, I guess, way back when I started, the advice was to write in different genres because you would hit different readers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I've written in so many different genres, and that really kind of hurts because now I've been writing paranormal and horror for 4 years, and my early books were not horror or paranormal. So when you think about a backlist, which is what you want to build up, my backlist doesn't necessarily match my front list, which kind of messes things up a little bit. Now all my books pretty much have, there's at least one kind of scary element in it, but not like horror or paranormal. It just kind of how it happens. That's how I found out to write horror and paranormal. But yeah, my thing was I listened, and I shouldn't have listened. Be like Jackie said, stay in the genre that you think you're going to stay in, and if not, get a pen name, because it kind of messes up your backlist sales.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, that's something to think about. Jenny, what do you think? What was your biggest mistake?
Oh boy, I know exactly what my biggest mistake was. When I very first wrote my first, novel, and I was so excited, and I just, I was like, oh, I'm gonna publish, and I didn't know anything about, who to have on my team, and I designed my own cover, and it was so ugly. Like, it was so bad, so bad. Like, I've hidden it away. And I don't let anybody even see a copy of it. It was so bad. That was my biggest mistake. Yep.
We've all been there. At least I have my earlier indie. I have like 50 copies that nobody will ever get because they're all in. I can't throw them away. I paid too much money, but I'm like, it was like with my brother's iPhone. I'm not even joking.
You need to have that, Jaci, as a special giveaway.
Everyone tells me the editing was so bad. Like I went through and that's, I think a lot of indie first time authors are like, I'm going to find the cheapest person to do the most stuff they can do. And it was just, I read it back now and I'm like, was this by an English editor? I don't think they spoke English as their first language. And like you go back through it and it was just like, so yeah, I have like 50 copies. I might do like a, buy one, get 50 free sale, but it was like bad.
Oh my gosh, you guys, this has been a really great panel. I just want to thank everybody that attended the panel today and our panelists. You guys have given some really valuable information. I hope that you can go back and kind of write up your thoughts on the panel and, those resources you gave us and those tips and who you should have on your publishing team. Give us that content so that people participating in this event can go get that. Again, I want to thank the team that put together Books and Booze, and I will be moderating another panel at 12 Eastern, 11 Central. So just about another 30 minutes, and I hope you'll join us there, and I'll make sure that information is posted in the reader group. Thanks again to Amber for being our sign language interpreter for Jaci.
Yes, there's no way I could have done this without her. Like, she's on it too. And I'm so slow when I sign anyway. Half the time I'm like, how is she already there? Like, she's been right on everything you guys have said. So thank you so much.
Yes. Okay. Everybody have a great day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the panels.
Bye, guys.